Next News, breaking news.
The email subject line was "Help with USDA food programs." Let that sink in. Prosecutors tied that exact phrase to communications with Ilhan Omar's office, while Feeding Our Future looters ripped off more than $250 million meant for hungry kids in Minnesota. Then another key player, Abdul Qurm Idle, got grabbed in Somalia after years on the run and now waits for extradition. And right in the middle of it all, Minnesota Democrats blocked a subpoena for the records that Omar still refuses to release. So if Ilhan Omar has nothing to hide, why did her party slam the door just as the receipts started to pile up? The story matters for one reason above all. Your country cannot survive a ruling class that steals from children and then hides the paper trail behind identity politics and sealed communications. Feeding Our Future was not some bookkeeping error. It was a $250 million feeding program heist. Money meant for hungry children got gutted while insiders lived large. The same Minnesota Democrat machine that backed Tim Walz and protects Ilhan Omar circled the wagons when subpoenas got close. So look at the detail they can't outrun. Amy Bach's trial exposed an email chain with Omar's office carrying the subject line "Help with USDA food programs." The exact programs the fraudsters looted. Weeks later came another line, Ilhan's office. Then text messages between Bach and Omar's staff. And what did Minnesota Democrats do when the public demanded sunlight? They blocked a subpoena. Omar called the fraud reprehensible, but she still won't dump the full communications. That's not transparency. That's a protection racket. And every normal American watching this knows exactly how the system would move if Republicans in office sat in the middle of a fraud trail like that. When Minnesota Democrats, they block subpoenas and they bury records, you should assume the same game hits your wallet too. That's how confusion protects insiders and traps families. If you or your family use Medicare, Chapter cuts through the Medicare confusion industrial complex for seniors. They are simple by design. One call, one advisor who looks at your doctors, looks at your prescriptions, your whole situation, and will tell you the truth with no propaganda, just facts. They work for you, not big insurance. If you're already on the right plan, they'll say it. If not, they can help you switch. Last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. Now, it's free. It takes under 20 minutes. Call 910-728-4109. That's the number you see on your screen there. Write it down. Give them a call. And stop letting bureaucrats and middlemen box you in like Omar's protectors do. Now, here's the part that should make every viewer furious. Ilhan Omar didn't just duck questions about fraud figures in her orbit. She also mocked Trump voters as idiots and dumb while her office sat connected to messages about the exact USDA food programs that got raided. That arrogance matters because it tells you how this machine thinks. They believe you're too stupid to notice the subject lines, too intimidated to demand the records, and too distracted to connect Omar, Walz World Democrats, and the block subpoena. So I'll pull up the reactions now. Ilhan Omar facing fresh heat over possible ties to the massive $250 million Feeding Our Future fraud scheme in Minnesota. Prosecutors say the convicted ringleaders and key players were in direct contact with Omar's office. Another major figure just arrested and is awaiting extradition. We've been tracking that here. Minnesota Democrats blocked a subpoena for the records. Time for full transparency and answers.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar to answer questions about her alleged contacts with convicted fraudsters. It comes after another arrest tied to the state's sprawling Feeding Our Future fraud scandal. Correspondent Garrett Tenney takes a look tonight from our Midwest Bureau.
Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is facing new questions tonight over her possible ties to alleged fraudsters involved in the massive Feeding Our Future scandal. The Justice Department says after years on the run, Abdul Qurm Idle is now in custody in Somalia, awaiting extradition. Prosecutors say the 42-year-old was a central figure in the $250 million fraud scheme, working with now convicted ringleader Amy Bach, whose trial exposed communications between the pair and Congresswoman Omar's staff. The details of those messages are sealed under court order, but we know in February 2021, Bach sent Idle an email with the subject line Ilhan's office. And weeks earlier, she had an email chain with Omar's office with the subject line Help with USDA food programs. Bach also had a string of text messages with Omar's office.
Did you ask Minnesota Democrats to block the subpoena?
Last month, Minnesota House Democrats blocked a Republican effort to subpoena records related to Omar's contacts with individuals that have been charged or convicted in the scheme.
This is not like a one-off. She has relationships with many of those who have been convicted or charged in this scheme. So I think it's absolutely relevant that we get to the truth of what those communications with her office were.
Omar denies any wrongdoing, telling Fox Digital, any claim that I had knowledge of this scheme is flat out false. As I stated from the beginning, stealing millions of dollars under the guise of feeding hungry children to bankroll lavish lifestyles and extravagant expenses is reprehensible. While Congresswoman Omar has never been charged with or accused of a crime connected to the Feeding Our Future scheme, it's worth noting she also has chosen not to make public the details of the communications her office had with those who were involved. Brett?
And
Garrett,
it's
thank
time
you.
to subpoena those records. The sealed contacts and the block subpoenas are exactly why the story isn't going away. Next, another report zeroes in on the Somalia arrest, the email subject that keeps raising red flags.
In Somalia just last week. Garrett Tenney's watching that. Midwest Bureau with more. What details do you have now, Garrett? Hello there.
Hey, Bill, good morning to you. This guy who was arrested was allegedly one of the orchestrators of the massive Feeding Our Futures fraud scheme. And when he was charged 4 years ago, Abdul Qurm Idle fled the country. His name came up a lot during the trial of the now convicted ringleader of the scandal, Amy Bach. And that trial also exposed multiple communications they had with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's staff. For example, in February 2021, there was an email chain between Bach and Omar's office with the subject line, Help with USDA food programs, the same programs that were targeted by the fraudsters for more than $250 million. A couple weeks later, Bach sent Idle an email with the subject line, Ilhan's office. There was also a string of text messages between Bach and Omar's staff. What did all of those messages say? Well, we don't know that because they were sealed by the court. And when Minnesota lawmakers investigating the fraud requested Congresswoman Omar to turn those records related to her office's contacts with individuals who've been charged or convicted in the scheme, she refused.
It's not like a one-off. She has relationships with many of those who have been convicted or charged in this scheme. So I think it's absolutely relevant that we get to the truth of what those communications with her office were.
So while Omar keeps denying knowledge, refusing to hand over the records, the questions keep piling up. Now the spotlight shifts from fraud probe to Omar's own rhetoric, with a clip that says a lot about where her loyalties are. Somalia is the best. We love Somalia. We don't care what you think about us. Donald Trump does not judge us. Come on. Almost there. Well, maybe another day. All right. Ilhan Omar mocking dumb Americans for voting for Trump.
These people are just idiots. I really, I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people. The dumbing of the United States has arrived because how else do we get a Trump presidency again?
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
World War XI. So after calling Trump voters idiots and serving up World War XI, Omar's critics say the arrogance never stopped. Now here's President Trump unloading on Minnesota corruption, putting Omar's name right at the center of it.
How about in Minnesota? They come from Somalia, but they come from all over. They're all crooked in Minnesota. The governor's crooked. The attorney general's a crook. He's a thief. Terrible guy. All stupid, crooked people. And they came in from, in this case, Somalia is just terrible. A lot of people say it's the worst country anywhere in the world. They have no money, no nothing. They have no government. They have no police. They just shoot each other all day long. It's just pure bedlam. Probably the worst, most dangerous country. We have some beauties. They go to Minnesota, and they stole $19 billion. $19 billion. And they're low IQ. Generally, I mean, I can generalize. They're low IQ people. They're bad people. They have 94% unemployment. In other words, they don't want to work. You know, a lot of jobs available, right, with the economy. They don't want to work. Why would they work? And they sold more Mercedes-Benzes than any state in the union because they come here with no money, and they go out, they love a Mercedes-Benz, and they go out and buy Mercedes-Benzes. And I think you're going to get to the bottom of it real easy, and every one of them should be. And Ilhan Omar, who married her husband, married her brother became her husband. When she has to check a book, she says, any brothers? One. Any husband? One. She checks 2 people. So on top of everything else, she gets a double income tax cut. She's a stone cold crook, and everybody knows it. And the papers, they have one paper out in particular. The guy made a living writing about her, and I spoke to him. He said, but nobody does anything about it, sir. All you have to do is get his writings from the Indianapolis Star or whatever paper he works for. You don't even have to do anything. This guy spent 10 years investigating that crook, and you got to do something about it, or our people are going to get they're already upset. Takes too long. So, JD, you go do it, and Russell, you better do it.
So Trump laying out the corruption case the way millions of Americans see it, bluntly, without apology. Next, Greg Gutfeld takes the anger a step further, asking the question the media never wants to ask: who is protecting Ilhan Omar?
What? Is this what I have to do until I fill out that my parole sheet? I don't know what I'm doing here.
This is the best. She doesn't even answer any of the questions. A simple question. Who's protecting her? Why are they protecting her? She married her sibling. She's an alleged fraudster. She's implicated in a ton of cases. I just want her to remove the headscarf and see if she has a Nazi symbol on it, because that would be the trifecta. But if she's had to testify on her own behalf, what can we do? I wish we had a lawyer here that could tell me what we can do. Can she be arrested? How hard is this? If mafia bosses went away for less. She's the perfect example of a trickster who exploited the system, paralyzed by identity politics. That's why when she's being implicated in all this, she's calm, cool, and collected. She thinks she's going to get off.
Yeah. But Greg, that nice kid sitting there in the back, he's just a high school student.
So the moral center of the scandal sits inside 2 short phrases: help with USDA food programs and Ilhan's office. Not rumors, not smoke. Specific communications tied to the exact pipeline that crooks used to loot money meant for hungry kids. And when that ugly trail started pointing towards a sitting member of Congress, Ilhan Omar did not clear the air by releasing everything. Minnesota Democrats blocked scrutiny. They protected the records. They hid behind procedure. That tells you the whole rotten story. Ilhan Omar mocks Americans as idiots, but she expects the public to ignore the emails, ignore the extradition, ignore the subpoena blockade, and salute while the cartel closes ranks. No. The walls are tightening, and now every arrest makes the cover-up look smaller, uglier, and more desperate. President Trump called out the Minnesota corruption machine long before the legacy media stopped laughing and started reading the indictments. That's the win here. America First voters saw the pattern. The regime press buried it. Now Abdul Qurm Idle sits in Somalia awaiting extradition. Amy Bach's trial has already blown open the communications trail, and Ilhan Omar still cannot outrun those subject lines or her party's subpoena blockade. So here's the demand tonight. Subpoena every record, unseal every communication that can be legally released, drag every staff contact into the light, and stop pretending identity politics cancels accountability. Hungry kids got robbed. Minnesota Democrats protect the apparatus. Ilhan Omar sneered at Trump voters while ducking transparency herself. If you're sick of watching connected Democrats hide behind moral blackmail, send this segment to one person who still thinks that this was just a big misunderstanding. The names are on the trail now, and the country deserves the rest of the file. And you deserve the news when you ask for it. I've read your comments, I understand your frustration, and that's why I personally set up this entire system to make sure you get the notifications that never arrive from YouTube. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already signed up, and they are on the inside track. I want you to be on the inside track too. All you have to do is text the words raw feed to 844-840-4963, and I will send you the notifications personally, one text message a night. And since we're at the 250th year of this great republic, celebrate with us by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.
The system controls information. Information control is power. They don't want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.